Hello everyone, my name is Taryn and this is my multimedia submission for EDSI168 Assessment Task 2. My target area for the Eco-Challenge is the reduction of meat consumption by limiting convenience-based sources, namely Uber Eats. I chose this target area because the overuse of Uber Eats increases daily carbon emissions, which negatively impacts global environmental sustainability. And the convenience of simply clicking a button allows my family to buy meat products and meals easily, without considering how much we're actually spending and consuming due to the lack of meal planning. Cutting costs from purchasing meat through Uber Eats means that my household can put those extra costs towards supporting local Australian farmers and businesses. Next, I will further elaborate on this reflection by linking my action plan goals to three areas of sustainability. By supporting local Australian farmers and businesses, we can support long-term economic sustainability without negatively impacting social, environmental, and cultural aspects of the community. Reducing carbon emissions, food, and plastic wastage will support the responsible and balanced use of natural resources to meet present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And limiting meat consumption to only fulfill sufficient nutritional intake prevents the global risk of diet-related non-communicable diseases such as obesity, iron deficiency, and cardiovascular disease. Choi and Lee, 2022. Let's first take a look at my initial ecological footprint. Needless to say, I was very shocked, a little embarrassed, and honestly quite ashamed. Seeing the data in front of me made me realize how much impact my unsustainable lifestyle had on Earth. If everyone lived like me before this assessment, we would have needed 4.7 Earths because it required 10.6 tons of carbon emissions and 7.7 global hectares to sustain my lifestyle. Additionally, my carbon footprint made up almost 50% of my overall ecological footprint. This percentage was highly influenced by my high food and shelter consumption. Although my shelter consumption was slightly higher, I wanted to use this assessment as a way to reduce the biggest impact on my meat consumption. Uber Eats. To briefly reiterate my findings in AT1, on average, an Australian household of 4 people spends around $230 on groceries and $59 on takeaway foods, according to Statistica Research Department in 2023. However, my family and I spent $522.67 on food alone, $198.4 on groceries, and a whopping $324.63 on Uber Eats. 42% of our food consumption was primarily meat, and 72% out of 40 products that we bought were Australian grown. Let's review my action plan. Week 1 focused on limiting Uber Eats costs to approximately $60 to accommodate for Australian grown grocery costs. Week 2 focused on sourcing meat and poultry products from local butcheries. And Week 3 focused on substituting products and favorite recipes for Australian grown alternatives to sustain taste preferences. For Week 1, we drastically changed our budget to approximately $60 for Uber Eats, so that the rest of the costs could focus on groceries for simple home-cooked meals. As a household, we spent $226.37 on groceries and $73.50 on Uber Eats. The challenge we faced for this week was to stay within the budget we set for takeaway food. While it's not nearly as much as our baseline data, we still went over budget by $13. While we didn't overcome this challenge completely, our achievement for week 1 lies in our successful exploration for more Australian grown products, 92% of our purchases, in commercial grocery stores, which we used to make home-cooked alternatives of food we typically got delivered. Evidence shows we made home-cooked McDonald's breakfast foods, tacos, and I added a picture of one of our Uber Eats orders. My attempt at recording a not-so-aesthetic cooking video. In week 2, we focused on trying to source meat, poultry, and seafood products from local butcheries to reduce food miles and carbon emissions. We spent $218.69 on groceries and $47.68 on Uber Eats, which is a great improvement from week 1. The challenge we faced was that the local butchery was in a different area from our typical grocery store. Sometimes we were rushed with time and had to choose convenience over sustainability. Although my family and I did not always buy our meat, poultry, and fish from local butcheries, the food miles we personally accumulated by driving to our local butcheries and bullies was 72 kilometers in comparison to my initial food miles, which was 52,682 kilometers because of international transport. I was not able to calculate the total food miles including product transportation from farms, as bullies and butchers did not provide the location of where the food was from. In week 3, I essentially took the practices from week 1 and 2 to recreate favorite meat heavy meals using healthier alternative Australian grown ingredients. We spent $221.17 on groceries and $43.45 on Uber Eats. Week 3 was especially fun because I liked recreating and putting my own healthy spin on meals from my Filipino cultural background and other ethnic backgrounds. I hope to continue this sustainable practice in the future to improve my human sustainability and further reduce the risk of diet related non communicable diseases, and particularly improve on my current health as I struggle with iron deficiency and lack of fiber. The challenge we faced for this week was motivation, but my family and I overcame this challenge by reminding each other why this eco challenge was important to begin with, and how fortunate we are to live in a country that provides opportunities to address global sustainability issues. Comparing the before and after of my ecological footprint, I can see that the implemented action plan significantly helped to positively improve my impact on the earth. I was able to decrease the amount of earths we would need if everyone lived like me, and my food consumption category decreased significantly. My global hectares is now 4.8 in comparison to 7.7, and my carbon footprint reduced to 7.7 tons. However, I can also see that my carbon footprint percentage increased to 55% of my ecological footprint. This is probably a result of my increase in my mobility consumption, as I am currently accumulating hours for my learner's license. With hopes to commit to a more sustainable lifestyle, I hope to work on implementing a more plant based diet instead of relying on poultry and fish as alternatives to meat. As pre service teachers, we have the great responsibility to educate future learners about the importance of preserving our planet and the best ways to do so without compromising the things we already enjoy. While you may not be able to show future learners how to recreate their favorite takeaway meals, you could go on an excursion to visit local farmers markets or plantations. Clean Up Australia suggests that schools should implement zero waste, zero plastic lunch challenges, or growing a sustainability vegetable garden to promote the importance of Australian grown products. Myler ND. Encouraging exploration in outdoor environments can help to reinforce environmental sustainability, particularly climate change, according to Olson et al. 2024. Implementing simple practices around the school could be all it takes to create a sustainability spark within young learners to realize how easy and fun it can be to practice sustainability at home. Thank you for listening.